Researchers also use other variables to actually measure biodiversity when they're doing their research projects. For example, they use the species richness in the fashion of alpha, beta, and gamma richness. Alpha richness, for instance, is the species richness within a specific habitat, and is probably the most commonly or commonly used measurement of diversity in ecology. The beta diversity is a measure measures the rate at which species change from one habitat to another one within a region or within a gradient, which is what we were talking about just a second ago. If one looks at the differences in species from one point to another one, as one moves from east to west or from sea level to highlands, you're looking at beta diversity. This means that different species will be found through the gradient, such as hummingbirds, monkeys, trees, flowers, etc. This is what happens when you move from one forest site to another. The last measure of diversity is called gamma diversity. And gamma diversity is the broadest diversity measure, consisting of the total number of species of a taxon broadly defined in a biogeographic region. So it's pretty much like measuring the total number of species that could happen in two separate continents or in two separate biogeographic regions, say in South America or Central America. In the most diverse of the temperate zone forests, you can find up to 20 species of trees in a hectare. In the tropics, you can find up to 100 species of trees in a hectare. But there's some areas in the Amazon where you can find up to 300 species of trees in a hectare. Brazil by itself contains around 55,000 species of flowering plants. Altogether, about 90,000 species of flowering plants account for 37% of the world's total. And this that I just said, the 90,000 species of flowering plants, is pretty much what happens in the entire tropics or neotropics. Richness is definitely high. A number of individuals within a single species tend to be low. So when you visit a tropical rainforest, the visitor is usually disappointed because they're hoping to find hundreds of things that come into view, like dozens of monkeys and toucans and all kinds of creatures, just a realm of stuff that will come right to say hello to you, but that's not the way it is. So another way of putting what I just said is that rarity is common for many species in tropical rainforest. The concept of identifying a forest type by its numerical dominant tree species works well in the temperate zone, but it doesn't in the tropical rainforest. And probably you've done this exercise before in where you guys are in North America, just by, you go into the woods and you can say, oh, these are oaks because they're everywhere. Oh, these are, pines, or you name it. So, but in the tropical rainforest, that doesn't happen that way. Just to give you an example of the species richness, in the Amazon, for instance, in just one little site in Ecuador, 81 species of frogs were found, which is or accounts for probably all the types of frogs that exist in continental United States. Insect richness is definitely staggering here. If you take your time with binoculars and a camera, you can find the most bizarre looking insects. For Costa Rica, since we are here, scientists have described up to 1,500 species of butterflies, which account for approximately 5% of the world's total. The total types of arthropods or species of arthropods and insects account for approximately 20 million in the canopy of the rainforest. And it could actually exceed 30 million according to some other scientists. But it's for sure, now that we're looking at the canopy, very difficult to actually estimate, since there's so many things, how many species of living creatures exist in planet Earth. Another variable is climate, energy, and in the tropical rainforest, which is what we just were talking about earlier. And remember that the latitudinal belt from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn spans for approximately 47 degrees in latitude, and this area between the two, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, is warm and is wet. Winters are far less severe than in the temperate regions and of course the polar regions. We pretty much have two well-defined seasons. One is the rainy season and the other one is the dry season. Light flows more evenly and constantly, as we were saying before. Virtually, there are very little variations here in Costa Rica, probably 20 minutes, right? We don't have exactly 12 hours of sunlight per day, but probably 20 minutes less. In right at the equator, probably have 12 exact hours of light, and that's a lot of energy. Increasing the photosynthetic capacity of plants, and this of course is called net productivity that supports a greater species richness. It's amazing, but as we were saying before, in areas where these climate patterns occur, where it's warm, where it's wet, where we have a lot of rain and a lot of energy available, of course, we have a realm of species. We have an incredible number of insects and multiple habitats foraged in the forest, and of course, we have a huge population of creatures. In areas that have this kind of conditions, of course, the bird life increases exponentially. Invertebrate species also correlate closely to the water and solar energy availability. Another hypothesis is the stability time hypothesis, and some scientists conclude that ancient tropics have been relatively stable for the last couple thousand years, and of course that has been one of the responsible factors for the amazing number of species found in the tropics. So this climatic stability facilitated speciation. To talk about kingfishers, for example, there are 5 species of kingfishers that inhabit the neotropical rivers and streams, lakes as well, that represent almost the total number of species of kingfishers here in this part of the world. The fossil record, as well as biogeographic studies, show that kingfishers evolve in the old world. So you find a huge representation of kingfishers in Africa and some parts of Asia. Somehow they found their way to the neotropics relatively recent, probably in the last 10,000 years. So for the 6 different species of greenback kingfishers that are found in the neotropics and specifically here in Costa Rica, they all evolved from a common ancestor. Interestingly, wherever in the world kingfishers happen, there are never more than 5 kingfisher species together, coexisting in the same habitat. This means that kingfishers have evolved local diversity here in the tropics, and especially in Costa Rica, that is virtually the same kind of ecological diversity they have evolved elsewhere where they happen.